Chapter 153 Extraction. On the folding bed in the activity room, Merlin slowly opened his eyes. The potency of the divine tranquilizer seemed to be not quite the same as that of the earthly ones, and it lasted for a short period of time in Merlin's body, but it was able to effectively suppress his state of madness. Now Merlin's eyes no longer had the slightest bit of cloudiness or confusion. He sat up and turned his head towards a small table to the side, only to see Lin Chia in a white coat sitting there, a glass in his hand, smiling faintly at Merlin. "Good evening, Sir Merlin." "Good evening, Dean Lin." Merlin got out of bed and walked over to the chair opposite Lin Chia and sat down, his eyes gazing at Lin Chia and raising his eyebrows. "It seems that the crisis around you has been solved." Lin Chia was surprised and opened his mouth. "You see it again?" Mei Lin smiled and didn't say anything. "Then you can see again how is my fortune for this period of time in the future." Mei Lin's deep gaze flickered slightly as he shook his head. "It's hard to say about the future, but at least for the last few days your luck is not bad." Lin Chia nodded, and after a moment of hesitation he continued to ask, "Lord Merlin, how much do you remember about what just happened?" "The things that just happened?" "The things that happened before you woke up from your sleep." Mei Lin pondered for a while and opened his mouth somewhat uncertainly. "I remember I seemed to be thinking about things in my room and then... I can't remember." Lin Chia nodded, his heart pondering. That is to say, at the time Merlin lost control and turned into a pink starfish, his own consciousness was in a comatose state. That's not right. Then what was dominating his body when he turned into a starfish and ran all over the yard trying to catch jellyfish? Second personality? Or the subconscious? But... could Merlin, a highly respected wise man, really have such an outrageous subconscious? And after he turns into a starfish, the names he calls out are all very strange. SpongeBob SquarePants? Squidward? Plankton? Would a normal human really shout out such strange names? Or did there really exist these people in some places? And how did that consciousness that controlled Merlin's body know about it? Lin Chia shook his head and threw away his mind's mixed thoughts, pulling out a few pills from the pocket of his white coat and laying them on the table. "This is..." Mei Lin's eyes floated with doubt. "Drugs," Lin Chia said calmly. "Perhaps it will help your situation somewhat." Mei Lin shook his head. "I said I don't have a disease. But the truth is you do have it," Lin Chia said in an undeniable tone. He pushed the glass with his hand full of water in front of Mei Lin. "Sir Mei Lin, please take these medications before we continue with the following part. These medications are the same type of medications that doctor from the psychiatric hospital dispensed to Instructor Gu. In the drug room of the God Psychiatric Hospital, all of them can be easily found in the God-used version. Instructor Gu proved with practice that this medication is very effective for his condition." Merlin frowned at Lin Chia, seemingly pondering something, and after a few moments, he sighed helplessly and swallowed the medication on the table in one gulp. "Now is it okay?" Mei Lin spread his hands. Lin Chia glanced at the healing progress bar above Merlin's head. It was still stuck at 0%. But this wasn't surprising. He had only just taken the medicine. How could it be immediately effective? "Sir Merlin, I came here this time to discuss something with you." Merlin seemed a bit surprised. "Regarding the real world you mentioned before, I have some other views." Upon hearing the words real world, Merlin's expression became visibly agitated, and his eyes blossomed with a different kind of splendor. "What views?" Lin Chia took a deep breath. "I think that the world we are in is the real one." Mei Lin asked curiously. "Why?" "Because I think it is real, it is real." Mei Lin's brows wrinkled slightly and shook his head. "You're being materialistic." "So what if it's materialistic?" Lin Chia smiled. "In this world there are my loved ones living, my friends, countless flesh and blood people living. Even if this world is fake, does that mean they are all fake? Even if the world is fake, does that mean they are all fake? Does the fact that the world is fake mean that their lives, their sorrows and their joys are no longer important? If one day you kill a city of people, when you look at the wretched earth and the sorrowful beings, as well as your own tragically dead family members, can you comfort yourself by saying that they are nothing more than fake and it doesn't matter if they die?" Lin Chia stood up, stared into Mei Lin's eyes and spoke word for word. "Whether the world is real or not itself is a materialistic issue. You feel that it is real, then it is real. You feel that it is false. Then even if it is real, what can it do?" Mei Lin stared at Lin Chia in a daze, silent. "You want to pursue the real, this is your instinct as a seeker of knowledge, but I think that this should not be all you have to do. Even if you find the real world, it doesn't mean that you belong there, even if you can't find the real world. You still have us and this piece that belongs to us, the wide world. You have pushed yourself too hard, Lord Merlin. After Lin Chia finished speaking and saw that Merlin had completely fallen into contemplation, he quietly walked out of the room and took a deep breath in the corridor. I have to say, this doctor who treated Instructor Gu, he really does have some skill. It's not like an ordinary person can say this. Next time I meet Instructor Gu, I'll have to ask him to give me a contact. Lin Chia muttered and turned around to walk outside the corridor. What he should have said has been said. The medicine he should have fed has also been fed. Whether it will be effective or not depends on Meilin's own realization. Lin Chia had just walked into the courtyard and was about to open his mouth to instruct Li Yifei something when a line of small words appeared in front of his eyes. Merlin's treatment progress. 2%. Reward acquisition conditions have been met. Starting to randomly select Merlin's godly abilities. Lin Chia's eyes lit up and his heart instantly became excited. It's coming, it's coming. It finally came. The familiar virtual carousel reappeared in front of Lin Chia's eyes, and the list of Godhead abilities inscribed on it similarly dazzled Lin Chia's eyes. Fire magic proficiency, thunder magic proficiency, transformation magic proficiency, space magic proficiency, eye of wisdom, black magic proficiency, abyssal magic proficiency, prophecy, astrology. Similarly, on this carousel there was a black area of less than 1% of the area, with no idea what it represented. Looking around, the vast majority of them were magic-related abilities, and the rest were related to wisdom and prophecy direction, which made Lin Chia relieved. At least it wouldn't draw an egghead ability like transcendent fertility. Immediately afterward, the virtual carousel spun up at a rapid pace. Chapter 154, Summoning Magic. Lin Chia's heart was already in his throat as he nervously looked at the dial in front of him. The rotating speed of the dial grew slower and slower as the pointer scratched through an area, and under Lin Chia's gaze, it eventually came to rest on a few small words. Summoning Department Magic Proficiency. Summoning Department Magic? When Lin Chia saw these words, he directly froze in place. His mind conjured up the kind of shocking image in a movie where he summons a frost dragon with a single lift of his hand, and his blood pressure immediately went up. Compared to the mundane divine realm, which can only be perceived mentally, and the supreme darkness erosion, which can only cover the body, this one seems to be more visually impactful. Lin Chia stretched out his hand, and these few small words turned into white light and flew into his body. Summoning Magic Proficiency. Gain all of Mage Merlin's summoning system magic knowledge. Transform yourself into a summoning system magic super affinity physique. Reduce spell casting chanting time by 50%. Materials required to cast spells by 50%, mental energy required to cast spells by 50%, and difficulty of casting spells by 50%. The moment he saw these small words, Lin Chia only felt countless knowledge frantically pouring into his mind. At the same time that white light was rapidly transforming his body, it didn't seem to have changed much, but it seemed to be different from before. After half a minute, Lin Chia slowed down, rubbed his distended temples and muttered. Summoning Department Magic. Is this Summoning Department Magic? The knowledge in his mind roughly categorized Summoning Department Magic into 3 types: subdimensional summoning magic, designated summoning magic, and random summoning magic. The so-called secondary summoning magic is to send one's soul to another realm by offering a large number of valuable sacrifices, signing a contract with certain creatures, and then summoning them by unfolding a magic array when they return to the real world. Designated summoning magic, that is, in the real world contacted a certain existence and obtain their consent, can be summoned elsewhere such as humans, items, etc., but if the summoning object is a person will consume a lot of spiritual energy, and if the distance is too far, cannot be summoned, should be more applicable to the summoning of existing items. Random summoning magic, as the name suggests, no one knows what you will summon. The medium of casting the spell is also very simple. A stone, a piece of wood, a coin can be. It is possible to use a leaf to summon a frost dragon, or may have sacrificed an artifact, summoned an old hen. Lin Chia sighed quietly after carefully perceiving the entire system of summoning magic. Of the 3 summoning methods, only the first 2 were the most reliable, but the latter's summoning had many limitations, and the former required a large number of valuable sacrifices if they wanted to travel to another realm. What do you mean by valuable offerings? What do you mean by a large amount? No bottom. Perhaps. The corpses of mythical creatures could be used for sacrifices? Lin Chia shook his head, calmed his mind, and drew his consciousness away from the asylum and back to the real world. The moon stars were thin. Lin Chia slowly opened his eyes on the bed, looked at Bailey Fatty who was sleeping like a dead pig in the next bed, and after hesitating for a moment sat up. No matter what, magic is magic after all, and to a child like Lin Chia who grew up living in the city, these two words always seemed to have a different kind of charm. Since he knew magic anyway, why not try it out first? He quietly walked out of bed and picked up one of his slippers. After a moment of contemplation, he put the slippers back and backhanded Bailey Chubby's slippers. Since both sublime summoning and formulation summoning can't be used, now he can only try random summoning, but although random summoning is random, the things that are summoned out are rarely powerful, and are usually useless scraps. Although it was true that there was a less than % probability of summoning some kind of dragon or demon, Lin Chia never felt that such an outrageous thing would be his turn. Lin Chia set the slippers on the table, dipped his finger in some water, and began to draw a magic formation around the slippers. Random summoning was like this, simple as child's play, no materials, no precision, just a wave of destiny. About 4 or 5 seconds later, Lin Chia finished drawing the magic formation and injected his spiritual energy into it, and the water traces around the slippers emerged with a faint blue light. Whoosh! The slippers between the magic formations suddenly disappeared as if they had never appeared. Lin Chia stared at the magic formation dead on, and after a long time, nothing still appeared. It was empty. Isn't it a random summon? Where's the thing I summoned? Just as Lin Chia was wondering, some familiar sounds surfaced in his ears. Buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes? Lin Chia's spiritual power swept through and indeed found a mosquito in midair, and the entire person was dumbfounded. It was still May, so it was reasonable to say that it wasn't yet the season for mosquitoes to appear, but under the greatness of Lin Chia's summoning system magic, it appeared. This mosquito flew half a circle in midair, swung to the sleeping Bailey Chubby's thigh and sipped hard. Bailey Fatty grunted twice, reached out and scratched his leg, rolled over and continued to sleep. Lin Chia stroked his chin and, "This magic is a bit interesting, ah." So he quietly stretched out his sinful little hand and continued to touch the things around Bailey Fatty. Early the next morning, Bailey Chubby woke up leisurely. He looked blankly at the ceiling for a while and suddenly felt that his hands and feet were a little itchy and looked down. Crap. How so many bags? There are mosquitoes? He looked at his hands and feet adding up to more than 20 bags and opened his mouth in shock, then turned his head to look at Lin Chia. 7 nights, there are mosquitoes in our room and I guess there's more than one. Have you been bitten? Lin Chia honestly shook his head no. Strange. Bailey Chubby scratched his head, got up and prepared to get out of bed and again froze. Where are my slippers? He looked around in a circle, the small eyes are greatly puzzled. Strange, both slippers are gone. Could it be under the bed? Hearing the word under the bed, the corner of Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly and unnoticeably. Bailey Chubby leaned down and looked at the bottom of the bed. The whole person directly stayed in place. After a long time he incredulously stretched out his hand and pulled out a whole bunch of things from under the bed. Ear-pulling spoon, tree bark, light bulb, my wife Sean E. Hand Office Limited Edition, a box of fried rice and stockings. Bailey Chubby stared blankly at the black silk in his hand, hesitated for a long time, slowly raised his head and looked at Lin Chia. 7 nights, these. I don't know, anyway it's not mine. Lin Chia shook his head with certainty. How could I have stockings? But Lin Chia pondered for a moment. This could be Chow Yuan's. Chapter 155 Ranking of Scores. Hey, what kind of eyes are you looking at? In the cafeteria, Chow Yuan was silently eating his bun as usual, but he vaguely felt uncomfortable and turned his head to look, only to realize that Bailey Chubby was staring straight at him. Chow Yuan. Bailey Fat seriously said, I really did not expect you on the surface of the honest actually have this kind of fetish. Chow Yuan froze. What are you talking about? You have your own hobbies, it's nothing but. Bailey Fatty put on a pained expression. But why did you hide something in me? I haul Bailey. Bailey, ordinary family's only son, if spread out to be misunderstood. How can I still face those beautiful sisters who are devoted to me? Chow Yuan. What exactly are you trying to say? Chow Yuan frowned. Coughing. Lin Chia lightly coughed twice, backhandedly stuffed the bun into Bailey Chubby's mouth, Unimportant eat. Chow Yuan suspiciously scratched his head, and after a moment he seemed to remember something and said, I heard that before we finish and leave the intensive training camp, there is a score assessment. Examination? Bailey Chubby froze. That's right, don't we still have 2 or 3 months to finish? It is said that every year before graduation, the instructors will give a score ranking table to rank all the recruits. Is it similar to the ranking of the final exams? Lin Chia pondered for a moment. What is the use of this ranking? To disqualify a portion of the recruits whose rankings were too low from entering the Night's Watch? This will not be the case in general. The intensive training camp will not eliminate recruits. I only know that this score ranking seems to be used to determine the direction of each person after the completion of the course. I am not sure about the specifics. Chow Yuan shook his head. What does it mean where to go after graduation? Bailey fat blank opening. It means deciding which vigilante squad to be assigned to after finishing school. Lin Chia explained the recruits in this intensive training camp, after graduation, will be transferred to the Night's Watch squads in different regions as additional fresh blood. After all, every year during the mysterious purge, there will always be a number of original members of the Night's Watch who will be sacrificed. Because different regions have different degrees of importance, the requirements of the Night Watchman station there are also different. And this score ranking may be the basis for adjusting the direction of the individual according to their potential and qualifications. Those with low score rankings are transferred to third-tier cities with lower population densities, while those with high score rankings go to some key areas, such as Shangjing City, Huaihai City, and may even be transferred to some special squads. It dawned on Chubby Bailey, so we still have package allocation? Otherwise, after the intensive training, each go back to their own home? I think it is quite good. Chow Yuan rolled his eyes, but I've heard that generally speaking special squads don't recruit from the outside, because most of the members of special squads have been on the team since it was first established, and have absolute tacit understanding and trust with each other, and hastily stuffing in new members is likely to be counterproductive. Unless that newcomer's potential was particularly strong, or the squad's own team members' losses were already so severe that they could no longer support them to continue their normal purging operations, only then would they recruit externally. Wait a minute. Bailey Chubby suddenly realized something. Wouldn't that mean that all of us would have to be separated after closing from here? Chow Yuan slowly nodded yes. Then can I apply and go to a team with 7 knights? Bailey Chubby scratched his head and said with a crying face, what if I'm assigned to some ravine and can't get out for the rest of my life? You are the young master of the Bailey family, who would dare to assign you to a ravine? Chow Yuan spoke helplessly. Unless there were special circumstances, there would rarely be a place where 2 recruits would be recruited at the same time. Besides, with Lin Chia's status as a dual god agent, he will most likely be snatched up directly by a special squad or transferred into the Shangjing City Night Watchman squad. You won't be able to get in, so just die of it. Bailey Chubby. Oh. Lin Chia was silent for a moment and slowly opened his mouth. Actually, I don't really want to go to any special squad or Shangjing City. If I can, I still want to stay in Songnan. Chow Yuan shrugged. I don't care where I go. Then if I... Bailey Fatty's eyes lit up. I can go back to Guangshan. Being a night watchman in my own territory is simply not too good. By the way, this score ranking in the end, how is it ranked? Exam? Lin Chia asked suspiciously. I heard that the basis of this score ranking is more complicated, involving all of our training programs such as physical training, extreme training, theoretical exams, tactical theory, the ACE mental power training, device adaptability in our hands, shooting, melee combat. Theory exam? Bailey Fat Tiger body a shock. Finished. Kidding. Lin Chia held his forehead. In addition to these, there seems to be a hidden score. Chow Yuan said with some uncertainty. Hidden score? What is it? I don't know, but it seems to account for not a low percentage in the score ranking algorithm. Lin Chia nodded thoughtfully. Forget it, let's take a step and see what happens. Collective training camp, back of the mountain. 3 black armed transport planes slowly landed from between the clouds. Sweeping gusts of wind raged on the tarmac, and a group of instructors stood around the tarmac, the corners of their clothes being blown over. Yuan Gang, who stood at the front, narrowed his eyes and gazed at the 3 transport planes that slowly landed, not knowing what he was thinking. After the 3 transports stopped, the rear hatch slowly opened and a heavily armed combatant jumped out of the hatch. After they came out, 3 huge black cubes were locked onto the transports and steadily drove out of the hatch. One of its combatants ran all the way to Yuan Gang and gave a standard military salute. Report. The 3 captured Chuan Realm mysteries have been delivered. Please instruct. Yuan Gang nodded slightly, stepped to the side of one of its black cubes, stretched out his fingers, and entered a 12-digit password on the small keypad on the cube's flanks. And a few moments later, a soft sound emanated from within the keypad. The black cube slightly shook, the top gradually opened, white cold air along the gap into the outside world. In the interior of this black cube, a face covered with spider lines of the boy stared wide-eyed, was frozen. It's very well. The corners of Yuan Gang's mouth rose slightly as he turned to look at the other instructors and spoke calmly. All get ready, the carnival day for the new recruits, it will start soon. Chapter 156 The Test. Early morning. A ray of sunrise passed through the window and gently sprinkled on the teenager's face. Lin Chia's eyelids slightly trembled, slowly opened his eyes. When he saw the ray of sunlight outside the window, he first froze, then sat up from the bed, looked at Bailey Chubby who was still sleeping like a dead pig on the bed, and his eyes floated out some doubts. It's 5:30. Lin Chia glanced at the time, and the color of doubt in his eyes became even more intense. Where's the whistle? Generally speaking, around 5 o'clock in the morning the instructor would blow the whistle outside before they hurriedly ran to the training ground to gather, waiting until the morning training was over before coming back to wash. If one day the instructor is heartless, it is not impossible to blow the whistle at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But today, it's already 5:30. How come there is still no movement at all? Can't it be that the instructor is in a good mood today and wants them to sleep more? One question after another surfaced in Lin Chia's mind. Now fall back and sleep again? Definitely can't sleep. Since he couldn't sleep, Lin Chia simply got out of bed, took his washing utensils and basin, and quietly pushed the door and walked out. Outside the corridor it was equally silent. It was only when Lin Chia walked to where the communal wash basin was located that he saw several other figures. Special Forces soldier Jing Zhong, Chao Yuan, and 2 heirs of ancient martial arts families. Lin Chia remembered that one was called Mo Lan and the other was called Li Shaoguang. 7 nights, you're awake too? Chao Yuan saw Lin Chia arrive and opened his mouth. Lin Chia gave a hum and looked in the direction of the training ground suspiciously. He just didn't know why. The instructor hadn't blown the whistle yet. It was nice to have a rare leisurely morning. Li Shaoguang wiped his face with a towel and laughed. Wake up early and get used to it, suddenly idle but also really a little uncomfortable. Chao Yuan shrugged. Zheng Zhong nodded his head in agreement, holding the wash basin and walking to the fence, looking away from this silent training camp, his eyebrows slightly wrinkled. But I feel from the feeling that it is not quite right. There's nothing wrong. Mo Lan shook off the water on his hand and calmly walked toward the room. The instructor does not blow the whistle. I will practice the gun by myself. If everything has to be supervised by others, it will never become a strong man. Watching Mo Lan's figure gradually leave, Lin Chia shook his head, threw away the chaotic thoughts in his mind and washed up. It didn't take him long to return to his room, and after hesitating for a moment he returned to his bed to meditate and meditate. Time passed by minute. The sunlight outside the window grew harsher and harsher, and the voices exchanged outside the corridor seemed to have increased, so Lin Chia opened his eyes and looked at the time. 7:30 in the morning. Still not blowing the whistle at 7:30? Lin Chia's brows wrinkled slightly. If it was possible for the instructors to have a guilty conscience if they didn't blow the whistle at 5:30, then if they still didn't blow the whistle now? More than likely, there were some changes in this intensive training camp that they didn't know about. On the opposite side, Bailey Chubby is still lying on the bed tilted back, sleeping in a very peaceful posture. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly, copied his slippers and slapped him in the face. Splat. The slipper came into close contact with Bailey Chubby's cheeks without any frills, then slowly slid down, leaving only a red mark hanging on his face. Bailey Chubby grunted twice and his light snoring continued to sound. Lin Chia. Lin Chia walked over to Bailey Fatty's bedside and shook his body while saying in a deep voice, "Wake up, get up and dry rice." Bailey Chubby rolled over and continued to sleep as if he didn't hear the voice. Lin Chia frowned slightly. He vaguely had an ominous premonition. After hesitating for a moment he grabbed Bailey Chubby's wrist that had an ace wristwatch on it, and forcefully injected a large amount of spiritual power into the wristwatch, followed by Bailey Chubby's body jerking violently, and he came to a carp stand-up to leap up from the bed and rolled over twice, and then collapsed heavily onto the bed, continuing to slumber. At this time Lin Chia's face had completely changed. No matter how much of a sleeper a person could be, they wouldn't be able to sleep while doing 2 backflips in a row, right? He used his spiritual power to sweep over Bailey Chubby's entire body and didn't find the slightest abnormality, and his breathing was also very even, as if he was really slumbering. Is this a mental type of trap? He muttered. Lin Chia stood up and pushed the door out with big strides. At this time, there were already about a dozen people standing in the corridor, getting together and discussing something heatedly. Lin Chia. Seeing Lin Chia appear, Shen Qingzhu, who was frowning at the crowd, had his eyes light up and quickly stepped forward. What's going on? Lin Chia asked. It's very strange. Shen Qingzhu's brows were tightly furrowed together, his tone rare and serious. Deng Wei and the others had been sleeping. No matter how much they were called, they couldn't wake up. It looked like they were caught in some kind of mental trap. Lin Chia's heart thumped. Not just him, 70% of us in this dormitory building are caught in this state. What about the instructors? Shen Qingzhu shook his head. Long ago someone went to look for them, but the most bizarre place is here, the entire training camp. Empty. Empty? Lin Chia's eyes widened. The instructors, the logistics, and even the old man who fought for food inside the cafeteria, all of them were gone. Shen Qingzhu's eyes are full of gravity now. In the entire intensive training camp, only us recruits are left. Are there traces of fighting? Shen Qingzhu froze. No. Lin Chia lowered his head and pondered. I see. What did you think of? If I'm not wrong, this should be an exercise or a test. Lin Chia, originally apprehensive mood settled down, calmly said, the instructors and others collectively disappeared, and there is not the slightest trace of combat, which can only mean that they are actively withdrawn, and the movement is very covert. You mean? Shen Qingzhu also seems to have realized something. What kind of people are the instructors? Those were all powerhouses above the Chuan realm, and Chief Yuan Gang was even at the Sea realm, so with a lineup like this, how could they be wiped out without a sound? Now that they've disappeared en masse, they're just trying to create an environment, one where only us recruits are left, isolated and helpless. My guess is that they're using some means at this moment, watching our every move. Grandma, they're playing us again? A flash of anger surfaced on Shen Qingzhu's face. What about Deng Wei and the others? What's going on with them? It's still unclear, but it's safe to say that their lives are not in danger for the time being, perhaps. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly. Is this the test that the instructors left us with? Screw this test. Shen Qingzhu broke into a curse. He seemed to remember something, turned around and pointed at the surveillance at the end of the corridor. Violently raised a finger. Chapter 157. Weirdness. Outside the training camp. Instructor Hong looked at the middle finger on the screen and sighed helplessly, then looked down at the grading sheet in his hand and silently wrote -1 next to the 3 words Shen Qingzhu. Irritable personality, intentionality, it's only natural to deduct 1 point. He muttered. Instructor Hong, is it all right to place 3 Chuan realm mysterious throws in the training camp? Instructor Han Li couldn't help but walk over. The highest realm in the recruits is the Qi realm. What if there are casualties? The corner of Instructor Hong's mouth rose slightly. Don't worry, this is considered one of the traditional programs for each session of our training camp. These 3 mysteries have all been shackled, their strength has been weakened by quite a bit, and when it comes to the critical moment we can also remotely control their lives and deaths. Besides, there are still some personnel hidden in the battalion, namely the Atmosphere Group, who can also step in at critical times, so nothing will happen. Atmosphere Group? Instructor Han Li was bewildered. Why is it called that? You'll know when the time comes. Instructor Hong smiled mysteriously. Inside the camp, Lin Chia stood by the bedside, swept over Deng Wei's body with his spiritual power and nodded. Just like Bailey Chubby, it's in a state of slumber. Is it a forbidden ruin? It should be. Lin Chia walked down the corridor, some doubts surfacing in his eyes. But why are they in slumber but we aren't? At this time in the entire dormitory building, the recruits who were still awake were all gathered together. There were about 30 people. After all, Lin Chia was a dual god agent and the holder of the star medal. In this case, he was probably the only one who was qualified to convince the crowd. Lin Chia swept through the crowd, and Chao Yuan, Jing Zhong and Li Shaoguang, whom he had seen in the morning, were also amongst them. Etc. Lin Chia seemed to have thought of something and suddenly spoke. What time did you all get up? The crowd froze and Chao Yuan was the first to speak. I was up at 5:20, and after I got up and went to wash up I ran into you. I was around 5:22. Li Shaoguang replied hesitantly. I was around 5:40. Shen Qingzhu said. 16 at 5. 5.50. 5.54. The 30 or so people present took turns saying the time they woke up. Lin Chia's eyes grew brighter and brighter as a guess surfaced in his mind. If I'm not wrong, this should be related to the time we woke up. Lin Chia let out a long sigh. Of all the people present, none of them got up after 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, most likely, is a point in time where those who didn't wake up before 6 o'clock had their spirits dragged somewhere and kept sleeping. The eyebrows of the crowd were furrowed. Is this also the work of the instructor? Shen Qingzhu asked. I don't know, but this kind of no one who sleeps has a good ending style is very much like something the instructors could do. Lin Chia shook his head. Then what do we do now? Lin Chia pondered. If all of this was an exercise given to them by the instructors, then what exactly is the standard for completing this exercise? The other people were awakened? But if that spiritual trap was created directly by the instructors, how should they disarm it? Or maybe it wasn't the instructors who dragged the other recruits into the dream world, but something else? Thinking of this, Lin Chia suddenly asked, Where's Mo Lan? When he went to wash up this morning, Mo Lan had already gotten up long ago, but why did he not see him among these 30 or so people now? I don't know, I haven't seen him since I finished washing up this morning. Li Shaoguang shook his head. Could it be that he went to practice his gun? Chao Yuan said. He went at 5:30 and practiced for so long, wouldn't it be strange to find that there's still no movement at all in the camp? Lin Chia turned his head to look in the direction of the training ground, and under the silent sky, the entire training camp seemed to emanate an eerie aura. Chao Yuan heard his strings. Are you saying that there are enemies in this camp besides us? This possibility cannot be ruled out, otherwise this drill would be pointless. Then what should we do now? Does anyone have a forbidden ruin in terms of mental attacks? Lin Chia pondered for a moment and opened his mouth to ask. The crowd fell silent for 2 seconds and shook their heads. I know who has. Li Shaoguang suddenly spoke. There's a girl named Zhang Xiao whose forbidden ruins are in the spiritual aspect. A girl? Lin Chia turned his head to look at Shen Qingzhu. Right, what's the situation with the other 2 dormitory buildings? There were a total of 3 recruit dormitories within the intensive training camp. Lin Chia was in the one they were in, and there was a second building across the street, while the girls were all uniformly housed in the third building, which was located on the flanks of the first and second buildings. The people in the second building have also noticed that something is wrong, and seem to have started searching the rest of the intensive training camp, but the girls' third building side seems to have been quiet. No movement. None of the girls are awake. No, in short. It feels like the atmosphere of the girls' dormitory is strange. Just take a look for yourself and you'll know. Shen Qingzhu shrugged. Lin Chia walked through the corridor and arrived in the cloisters on the east side of the dormitory building. His eyes fell on the 3 buildings in front of him and his brows furrowed slightly. One could only see the 3 buildings sitting alone, all the doors and windows tightly closed, the sunlight spilling onto the surface of the windows, without the slightest bit of light reflecting out, like an abyss devouring the light around them. On weekdays, if you stand here, you can clearly hear the sound of girls' playfulness coming from the third building, but at this moment it is dead silent. Something must have happened in the third building. Lin Chia's face sank slightly as he said with certainty. He turned around, thought for a moment and quickly ordered. Leave a few people to guard this building, the rest of you come with me, go to the warehouse to fetch weapons, then go see what exactly happened in the third building. Good. After a short exchange of words, the final decision was made on who to leave behind to guard the first building, and the rest followed Lin Chia as he darted towards the warehouse. The warehouse was not close to the dormitory area. They had gone through most of the training camp before arriving at the door of the warehouse. This way ran just as Shen Qingzhu had said. The entire camp was empty, there wasn't even a single silhouette. Lin Chia and the others stood at the entrance of the warehouse. Behind them, Shen Qingzhu's mouth gently chewed. then spit out a gum bubble that floated to the entrance of the warehouse's metal door. Snap. He gently snapped his fingers, and the air within the gum then exploded, directly blowing up 2 metal doors, rolling smoke and dust in all directions. The crowd quickly walked into the warehouse, grabbed their weapons and turned to walk out. Just then, several mournful screams came from the distance, resounding through the sky. Ah! Lin Chia and the others' faces suddenly changed, and they all looked in the direction the sounds came from. Is that the cafeteria? Xin Qingzhu's brows furrowed as she turned her head to look at Lin Chia. Which way are we going? Chapter 158, The Spider. First, go to the place where the miserable screams were emitted. Lin Chia only hesitated for a moment before making his choice. The 3 buildings were far away from their current location while the cafeteria was right next door to the warehouse. Although the situation in the 3 buildings was weird, the exact state of the interior was still unclear. Since the cafeteria was sending out screams, there was bound to be some variation, and of course the main purpose now was to save people. The crowd quickly rushed to the door of the cafeteria. Originally this time, the cafeteria should have been ready for breakfast, the aroma overflowing, but today's cafeteria is still dead silent. Not only no aroma, the air of the instead wafted a faint smell of blood. Smelling this smell, the faces of the people instantly changed. Didn't they say it was just a drill? Why? Xin Qingzhu's face sank slightly. Lin Chia didn't say anything, just frowned and walked to the door. The iron lock that was originally tied to the handle of the cafeteria's main door had already been chopped off, and the door had traces of being opened, so it could be seen that before Lin Chia and the rest of them, someone should have already come here and chopped off the iron lock to enter it. If there was no accident, the screams that had just been made were from him. Lin Chia didn't open the door hastily, but instead used his spiritual power to already sweep through the back of the door, probing the small half of the cafeteria clearly. It was. Lin Chia's brows furrowed together when he saw the scene inside the cafeteria. He took half a step forward and reached out to push open the door of the cafeteria. Seeing the scene inside the cafeteria, the crowd behind him first froze, then stared incredulously. The empty and uninhabited cafeteria had been covered with spider webs at some point. A mass of thick spider silks intertwined with each other, blending and weaving into a scalp-inducing white web that enveloped almost every corner of the cafeteria hall. In the dimly lit cafeteria, this hideous spider web was like a bloodthirsty beast with its bloody mouth open, baring its fangs at Lin Chia and the others. The crowd looked at the scene in front of them in shock, only coming to their senses after a long time. A spider's nest? Li Shaoguang of the crowd opened his mouth in shock. How could it be this big? This is not an ordinary spider, this should be some sort of spider-related mystery. Lin Chia slowly opened his mouth, and his gaze landed somewhere in the spider's web, his gaze slightly condensing. Look there. He reached out and pointed somewhere. In the center of one of its clumps of spider webs, there was a bloody figure adhering to it, a man with twisted limbs, a horrifying wound slashing from his chest all the way down to his lower abdomen, almost dissecting his entire body, the internal organs in his body having already disappeared. His horrified eyes, although no longer alive, were still staring at a certain place in death, as if there had been something extremely terrifying there. His expression was hideous, as if he had experienced extreme pain before his death. Wang Li. Someone behind Lin Chia exclaimed. It was Wang Li who lived in the second building? How could this be? Not only him, the vast majority of people here knew the man who died tragically on the spider silk. Because of his humorous and witty speech, he had made quite a few friends in the camp. Even if they were not familiar with him, they still knew him as a person. S17 had said that it is just a drill? Wang Li, how did he? Too bad, what exactly did he go through? This is not a drill. There really is a powerful mystery here. Damn. Where did all the instructors go? Seeing Wang Li's tragic death, the crowd's mentality began to change, and those who were still calm instantly exploded. Even Xin Qingzhu and Chao Yuan's faces turned ugly. Quiet. Lin Chia suddenly opened his mouth, his eyes slowly swept through the surrounding. From Wang Li screamed miserably to our appearance here between absolutely no more than 2 minutes, counting the time of predation. That mysterious, it is very likely that it is still hiding here. Hearing this sentence, the crowd, a burst of scalp numbness, good thing they are also experienced harsh training, immediately stabilized their minds, vigilant look around, but the eyes still have a little nervous and terrified. The vast majority of the people here had never seen the mysterious existence with their own eyes until now, let alone fought with them, and now that they had suddenly seen this scene, it was only reasonable that they would be nervous. Lin Chia drew out the star sword from the black box, a flash of night color slowly spreading out with him as the center, and while everyone stayed in place nervously, he quietly stepped out and walked towards the inside of the cafeteria, which was strewn with cobwebs. 7 nights. Chao Yuan saw Lin Chia just walk into the cafeteria. His eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and his eyes surfaced with a touch of worry. "It's fine, I have a number in my heart." Lin Chia lowered his voice and replied. His spiritual power carefully swept through every inch of space around him. After breaking through into the pool realm, his mortal dust divine domain perception range had reached 100 meters, enough to cover a small half of the cafeteria. Even if that mysterious suddenly appeared, under the Starry Night Dancer enchantment, he would be able to react quickly. Chao Yuan hesitated for a moment, took off his jacket, backhanded his sword behind his back, and similarly entered the cafeteria. Shen Qingzhu saw this, frowned, and then followed. After the 3 consecutive people entered the cafeteria, some of the other recruits also gathered their courage and prepared to enter the cafeteria. Just then Lin Chia's voice came. "The others should not come in. The more people that come in, the greater the possibility of touching the spider silk. Instead, it will easily put us in danger." Hearing these words, those who were originally prepared to follow into the cafeteria still stopped. In the dim and silent cafeteria, the figures of the 3 of them slowly moved towards the interior of the cafeteria. The spider silk distribution within the cafeteria is very dense. Lin Chia did not choose to touch any of the spider silk, sometimes crouching, sometimes leaping up, sometimes sideways. His figure dexterously passed between the many spider silks, gradually approaching the core area of the cafeteria. Fortunately, after a long period of special training, coupled with the acrobatic performance of the ace wristwatch detonating from time to time, Lin Chia's body flexibility has been far better than before, at this moment like a movie or TV drama agent through the infrared corridor. Although the steps are frightening, but they are all without danger. Suddenly Lin Chia's spiritual power swept up something, and he jerked his head up to look at the ceiling on the right side. There, a giant grayish-white spider was sticking to the ceiling, seemingly fusing with the grayish-white wall, and if one were to look at it with the naked eye, it would be extremely difficult to distinguish its presence. This spider was about 2 meters long with its legs spread out on both sides, and was a full 4 meters wide, and as if it sensed that Lin Chia had already discovered its existence, a single bizarre scarlet compound eye suddenly lit up on its gray-white body. Almost simultaneously, the necklace gem around Lin Chia's neck suddenly blossomed with an azure light, and he only felt a slight dizziness in his mind, which returned to normal within half a second. Azure Guardian was activated? This spider can mentally attack? Lin Chia reacted lightning fast. The color of the night wrapped around the straight blade in his hand and threw it with force in the direction of the giant spider. Chapter 159, Soul Body Spiderweb. The straight blade flew through the air with a slight buzz and stabbed with precision into the blank wall half a meter away from the spider. Lin Chia. Not only did Chao Yuan and Shen Qingzhu behind Lin Chia freeze, even the spider was stunned. It grew so, it had never seen someone's accuracy could be so bad as this. Could it be that this man's target is actually not himself? Lin Chia is also speechless. His "To Darkness God Ruins" just unfolded only 20 meters. Within 20 meters he can accurately point where to hit, but 20 meters away can only be everything as it happens. On the contrary, the distance between this spider and him is nearly 40 meters visually, and it is understandable that he can't hit. Just at the moment when Lin Chia's knife flew off course, Shen Qingzhu behind him raised his hand lightning fast, and the black ring on his knuckle erupted with a wisp of sparks, followed by a crisp ringing finger sound that echoed in the cafeteria. Boom! A violent explosion suddenly blossomed. Piercing flames covered the ceiling where that spider was, broken walls smashed down like rain, and the entire cafeteria shook. Between the rolling black smoke, a grayish-white spider thundered out, its scarlet compound eyes radiating a bizarre light. The mystery of the Chuan realm. Lin Chia keenly sensed the terrifying aura emanating from the spider, and his brows tightly furrowed. Lin Chia tightened his grip on the other star blade in his hand as the night color around him expanded once again, his eyes staring at the strangely fast spider as he tensed every muscle in his body. Chao Yuan also stretched out his hand with a grave gaze, ready to grip the hilt behind his back and liberate the Black King, chopping extinction. Under everyone's tense gaze, the gray-white spider suddenly made a sharp turn in midair, violently smashing the window on its side. Lin Chia? Crowd? Lin Chia's 3 people stayed in place for 2 seconds before slowly coming back to their senses. That murderous Chuan realm great spider ran away. Lin Chia suspiciously looked at the corpse of Wang Li, who had been eaten and bloodied, and then looked at the window that had been smashed by the spider's escape and fell into deep thought. Strange. This spider, shouldn't it be a ferocious monster that kills without blinking an eye and eats people for fun? With such a huge difference in strength between the two sides, why did it run? Just as Lin Chia was thinking, Chao Yuan let out a sigh of relief and put down the hand that was ready to hold the knife, seemingly rejoicing that he didn't have to be bound by the Chao Yuan chastity lock once more today. It ran too fast, we couldn't catch up at all. A few recruits who tried to chase the spider ran back, gasping for air. Xin Qingzhu frowned at Lin Chia. What next? Strange. This is not reasonable. Lin Chia shook his head, temporarily throwing away the doubts in his heart, and said, that spider is fast and strong, we can't chase it anymore. Still, we should first follow the original plan and go back to the 3rd building to rescue the people inside. But in order to prevent that spider from stealing the house, it is better to leave some more people to guard the 1st building, to prevent those who fall into a deep sleep from being massacred without the ability to resist. Xin Qingzhu's gaze condensed. The sleeping figures of Deng Wei, Li Jia, and Li Liang appeared in his mind, and after a moment he took the initiative to open his mouth. I'll go back to guard it. That's good, you are very strong. Even if the spiders come, you should be able to delay them for a while. Lin Chia nodded. After deciding on a strategy, the 3 of them retreated back to the entrance the same way they came, taking the other recruits to split into 2 and quickly left the cafeteria. When they were far away, 2 silhouettes quietly appeared in the corner of the silent cafeteria. Hehe. How is this spider boy so timid? How can you put pressure on this group of new recruits just by escaping? One person sighed somewhat helplessly. Good thing we made Wang Li's corpse realistic enough to bluff this group of recruits, or else our creation of this atmosphere is a complete failure. Another person continued. However, that Lin Chia's performance is really good, cautious and thorough, bold and decisive, a good seedling. How do you even need to say that? For someone to be chosen as an agent by 2 gods, how could they not have 2 skills? Also, by the way, that Wang Li who fainted, have you sent him away? He's lying outside the camp. That's good, we don't have much to do here anymore. Let's just see if the atmosphere group over at the 3rd building can do a good job. Somewhere on a deserted path, a gray-white spider was crawling playfully. A white light flashed, and the original spider body changed into the appearance of a boy. The boy looked no more than 11 or 12 years old in size, with a head of grayish-white hair. Faint spider lines surfaced on his small white face, and a pair of red pupils nervously looked around, that expression of aggression as if he was about to cry out. Ah! What to do? That knife-throwing guy looks so fierce. And that man who can explode with a snap of his fingers. Looks like he wants to chop me into 8 pieces. I obviously have been very good. I just want to find a place to sleep. Why are they beating me? Oh. No, it's too dangerous here, I have to get out. Spider Boy reversed direction and was about to run out of the training camp, then shivered as if he thought of something. No, can't run out. Those fierce instructors said that if I dare to sneak out, I will be slaughtered and eat red roasted spider hands. Bad people. All bad people. What should I do? What did they tell me to do? Right. The main thing first is to control the spirit of those who are sleeping and then find a place to hide. Spider Boy looked around, found a small warehouse that looked the most inconspicuous to hide in, and after creating this place into a world of spider webs with his spider silk, he peacefully lay down in the very center. Here they should not be able to find it, right? He lay on the spider web soft bed, muttered, first look at that group of guys, sleep how it. After saying that, his red pupils blossomed with a strange light, and in its field of vision, a virtual spiritual spider silk extended out from his fingertips, weaving over the entire set of training camps, spreading into a large web. And at the end of this large web, a spider silk was connected to the distant recruits' dormitories like a kite string, connecting to each and every one of the sleeping recruits. This was a spiritual spider web that only he could see, spread throughout the entire training camp. This web adhered the spirit bodies of all the sleeping recruits to the spider silk at 6 o'clock. And even if their spirit bodies woke up, they were unable to return to their original bodies, so to outsiders they were always in a state of slumber. Looking at those many soul bodies struggling on the spider silk, Spider Boy yawned lazily. Suddenly, his gaze landed on a certain inconspicuous corner of the spider's web, where a still sleeping white and chubby soul body lay. Other people's soul bodies have long woken up, just cannot return to the original body, but only this guy's soul body is really been sleeping until now. Sleeping really fragrant, ah, envy you. Spider Boy propped up his head full of envy, said. On the spider web that fat guy's soul body lazily rolled over, and his eyes slowly opened in the haze. Chapter 160. It's good to have money. Sleeping, the soul body state of Bailey Chubby slowly opened his eyes. Ha-oh. He greatly stretched his waist, smacked his lips, and mumbled with some doubt between half asleep and half awake. How to sleep so comfortably today? Instructor did not blow the whistle? But where is this? He finally fully awake, looking at his own soul body that was adhered to the spider web, and then looked at the other recruits' soul bodies struggling around him. His eyes floated out of a deep confusion. What the hell is this? How the hell did I get here? He scratched his head. Even if his reflexes were slow, he now realized that something wasn't quite right. A spirit trap? Bailey Chubby muttered, then shook his head. No, if it is a spiritual trap, then the firewall should automatically resist it. This is not an attack type of spiritual trap, this is... Bailey Chubby yanked his hand hard and found that he could not break free from the spider web at all. He just floated in midair. He could clearly see the recruits going to and from the training camp, but the recruits below were as if they could not see his existence. A spirit type forbidden ruin capable of stripping the soul body? Bailey Chubby was a little surprised to open his mouth. This kind of forbidden market is not rare. No matter what, leave first. He mobilized his spiritual power and all of it surged into a black ring on his right index finger. And at this moment, although he is in the state of the soul body and all of the clothes on his body are all figurative shadows, and forbidden things like self-space will even less appear on his body, but it is as if this ring has grown on his soul body, and it is completely unrestricted. Since it was a soul body, this thing should be effective. Bailey Chubby muttered. A black blade of light leapt out from his fingertips. The forbidden item, that soul-severing blade. His fingertips lightly swing. The black light blade will easily cut open the spider web that binds his soul body. The soul body lightly falls from the spider silk, and then only feel a strong suction force from the direction of the physical body. It will fly and float over. At the same time, the spider boy who was lying asleep on the warehouse spider web suddenly screamed miserably. Good pain, good pain, good pain, good pain. Who is it? I just want to sleep quietly. How come you still come to beat me? He aggrievedly sat up from the spider web. His red pupils once again bloomed with a strange color, and saw the return of the body of Bailey Fatty's soul body, as well as the corner of the spider web that he had been chopped off. Finished, this fat man can hurt my weaving soul. This is bad, what should I do? The spider boy sat on the soft bed of spider silk with a sad face, thought hard for a long time and shook his head hard with a broken expression. No matter, do what you like, go back to sleep. He grunted, relayed back on the soft bed and closed his eyes cozily. A dormitory. Dead pig-like lying on the bed, Bailey Fatty grunted twice and leisurely opened his eyes. After gazing blankly at the ceiling for several seconds, he violently sat up from the bed. Crap, there's a demon. He turned his head to look at Lin Chia's bed, but found that it was already empty, and looked down at the Rolex on his hand, then put on his slippers and thumped outside. Just as soon as he pushed open the door, he saw Shin Qingzhu, who came back from the cafeteria. When Shin Qingzhu saw Bailey Chubby running out, he first froze, then opened his mouth wide and opened his mouth in shock. How do you? Bailey Chubby looked around, frowned and asked. What happened? What happened? Shin Qingzhu did not rush to answer Bailey Fatty's question, but first ran a few dormitories, to determine that other people are still sleeping, before he was surprised to measure up Bailey Fatty. The thing is this. Shin Qingzhu briefly told Bailey Fatty what happened. Bailey Fatty nodded thoughtfully. No wonder, so it seems that the other sleeping people should be the same as I was before. Their souls were glued to that huge spider web. How is their situation? Shin Qingzhu asked with some urgency. It's fine, they are just trapped, I can save them. Bailey Fatty shrugged his shoulders and said. You can save them? Shin Qingzhu a happy really? I said the words there can be false. So save? I have my own way. Bailey Chubby very stinky smile from the pocket took out a monocle wearing on the bridge of the nose. In the instant this monocle was put on the glasses, Bailey Chubby clearly saw that a thread of nothingness intertwined in mid-air, forming a large net that enveloped the entire training camp. This forbidden object he also used in the battle against the Mask Squad Forbidden Market Sequence 315, Eye of True Vision. After putting it on, all tangible and intangible things have nothing to hide, and the soul body is no exception. There are so many. Bailey Chubby muttered, and the Yao Guang necklace on his chest blossomed with golden light, converging into a huge sword shadow, supporting Bailey Chubby's body to rise up in the wind. Shin Qingzhu stared blankly at Bailey Chubby's flying silhouette, and even had a trace of immortal chi. Grandma, it's good to be rich. Bailey fat feet on the Yao light, eyes wearing true vision of the eye, holding the broken soul knife, steadily hovering in midair. The breeze whisked through the corners of his clothes, with a hint of ethereal out of the dust atmosphere. The corners of his mouth raised in a confident smile. The black light of the soul-severing blade swept across the sky and accurately chopped on top of a spider silk, which snapped with a sound, and the soul body adhering to it fell and automatically flew back to its original body. Yao Guang turned into a sword shadow dragging Bailey Chubby body, flying in mid-air, soul-severing blade black light flashing one after another. The sky's invisible spider web suddenly collapsed at an alarming speed. Ah! The spider boy in the warehouse sat up violently, holding his head and screaming in pain, unable to control himself and rolling on the soft bed of spider silk. That fat bastard. He's chopping my silk. Pain. I can't no more, I can't stand it. I'll give all these souls back to you, okay? Collect. He stretched out his palm towards the distant sky, and the spider silk spread over the gathering camp suddenly receded rapidly and withdrew into the spider boy's palm. And the soul bodies that had originally adhered to the spider web all fell down and returned to their physical bodies. Bailey fat carry soul broken knife, surprised to see to a direction of extremely fast closing of the spider silk, stopped his body. Now no little master my powerful right. Bailey Chubby fingertips of the soul-breaking knife into the ring, hands crossed, smugly smiled. A moment later the smile on his face gradually disappeared and his expression grew serious. He pushed the single lens mirror on the bridge of his nose and muttered. Is it hiding there? Chapter 161. Space Isolation. Bailey Pang flew back to the dormitory building, tucked away all the forbidden items and swaggered up to Shin Qingzhu's front. How are you doing? Shin Qingzhu asked. Can't be any better, of course I've completed everything. Bailey Pang grinned mischievously, and besides I've also found out where that thing is hiding. Upon hearing this statement, Shin Qingzhu's eyes lit up. Where is it? In the second warehouse on the east side, but I'm terrified so I'm planning to wait for you all to go together. Bailey Pang spoke sincerely. As the two were talking, the doors of nearby rooms opened one after another, and other new recruits who had returned to their bodies from soul reincarnation also woke up dazedly and walked out of the room. Shinga. Deng Wei saw Shin Qingzhu walking in the corridor and rushed over excitedly. I told you I just had a nightmare. I dreamed that I was caught by a spider in the sky. No matter how I struggled, I couldn't wake up. Bailey Pang's mouth curled up, asking with a smile. Did you forget how you managed to escape? Deng Wei hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth uncertainly. I seem to remember. There was a glowing sow flying up to the sky and somehow it came back. Bailey Pang. Mother pig flying to the sky? Little sir, I tread on you Liang, hold the Duanhuan knife, rescue you from fire and water, but in your perspective, it looks like mother pig flying to the sky. Just as Bailey Pang gritted his teeth in anger, Shin Qingzhu let out a cold snort and slapped Deng Wei's back of the head, coldly saying, a bunch of useless people, you're just getting your souls stolen. From now on you're nothing but a night watchman. Go back home and grow vegetables early. Deng Wei was about to open my mouth in protest, but then Shin Qingzhu gave him a stern glare, forcing him to swallow his words again. Now all the new recruits are awake, we probably have around 150 people to use, enough to kill that spider. Bailey Pang said satisfiedly. Xin Qingzhu fell silent for a moment before speaking up. It's not counted that way. That spider is really deadly. Bailey Pang Pang was taken aback. Didn't you say it was just training? But indeed some people have sacrificed themselves and they died in a very cruel manner. Xin Qingzhu's eyes were filled with gravity. Even if we have over 150 people, not everyone will cooperate with our actions, and even if they do, facing a powerful Qianjing mysterious creature, there will inevitably be casualties. We need to come up with a plan to deal with the spider while minimizing losses. Xin Qingzhu lowered his head, deep in thought. Bailey Pang Pang looked at Xin Qingzhu in surprise. In his impression, Xin Qingzhu was always a mindless, hot-headed person, but now he actually turned out to be calmer than anyone else in an emergency situation. However, also when he fought against the fake mask earlier, he successfully ambushed the entire fake mask squad. Such a person, how could he possibly be truly mindless? By the way, what about Seven Knight? Bailey Pang Pang asked curiously. He took people to Building 3. He said that building has mysteries. Building 3? Female dormitory? Bailey Pang Pang first hesitated, then widened his eyes. Building 3 has mysteries? Doesn't that mean Molly is in danger? Without hesitation, Bailey Pang Pang turned his head and ran towards Building 3. Wait, aren't you going to kill that spider anymore? Xin Qingzhu saw Bailey Pang Pang just run away, shocked, open-mouthed. Bailey Pang Pang made a sudden break, hesitated for a moment, then removed the black ring on his right-hand index finger and threw it at Xin Qingzhu. You guys have over 150 people, that should be enough to deal with one spider. This is the Duanhuan knife, it can cut through soul thread spiders. First lend it to you, little sir, I want to go rescue the heroine. Xin Qingzhu caught the black ring, watching Bailey Pang Pang's figure disappear at the end of the corridor, shaking his head helplessly. In front of Building 3, Lin Chia gazed at the quiet and strange dormitory building before him, furrowing his brow. Although he was standing right in front of the dormitory entrance, the spiritual energy perception of the vanishing domain couldn't detect the existence of this building at all, as if it had been screened off. This kind of situation was the first time he had encountered. Chao Yuan walked forward, wanting to push open the large door of the dormitory, but no matter how hard he tried, that glass door remained motionless. He wrinkled his forehead, took out the star sword from behind and heavily struck the surface of the glass with the sword blade. Several muffled sounds echoed, but the glass door still didn't move, not even a crack appeared. Chao Yuan sighed, putting the sword back, turned to look at the thoughtful Lin Chia. With their current physical abilities, theoretically, they should be able to break through the glass door with bare hands. Now this strange situation occurs at Mu's building. The space has been isolated. Just then Li Shaoguang suddenly spoke up from the crowd. Lin Chia turned his head, asking curiously, "Space isolation?" "Yes." Li Shaoguang nodded. "My forbidden cave and space have some relationship, so I can sense the situation of this building, although it seems to be right in front of us from a spatial perspective, it doesn't exist here. So how do we get in? Let me try." Li Shaoguang walked forward, taking out a sword from behind. This sword was not the standard star sword issued to night guards, but a big cleaver with red tassels. Plus Li Shaoguang was already balding. Far away it looked like a fierce demon wielding a meat cleaver. Li Shaoguang stood in front of the door, took a deep breath and suddenly swung his sword blade outward. A slash of light mixed with faint grayness hit the glass door. When that grayish light burst open, a faint sound of shattering echoed as if something had broken a corner. The glass door did not show any signs of cracking, but Li Shaoguang's hands lightly pushed it, and it opened, revealing a dim hallway inside. "Quickly go in, I can only cut through a corner of this space, it will automatically recover soon." Li Shaoguang led the way into the building, telling the others. Lin Chia et al. Quickly entered the building. Moments later, that glass door mysteriously closed itself. From the inside looking out, the original road disappeared, and the surrounding environment became darkened, finally turning into an eerie deep blue. Just like being at the bottom of the deep sea. This is what space. Lin Chia reached the door, pushed the glass door again, still unable to move it. This entire building seemed to have been moved to another place, trapped in this one-sided space. "Let's go up and take a look, now we don't know what the situation is here." Lin Chia turned and started walking up the stairs. Just as he climbed halfway, a sharp scream from above echoed, resonating throughout the building. Lin Chia et al.'s faces darkened, exchanged glances and rushed frantically towards the upper floor.